I'm already starting on locomotive number 3, and you may hear a lot of background noise, and that is because I have the radio running and I'm washing laundry. I thought I'd show you some of the differences between this locomotive and the other two thus far. This one and the last one I worked on were both owned by the same person, I would have to say, because they both have this. I don't know what the deal is with that. Somebody put cardboard spacers underneath the screw holding this on. Let's get rid of that. So this one is replaced. The other ones have a proper original washer under there. Put that in the bin. In the pilot, you might be able to see that the pilot is actually curving this way, and it's bent down so far that it actually will hook the rails in the ties and it won't roll down the track. Well, the other problem with this one is that broke off, so I will have to address that. Time to see what's under door number 3. There's some mold or something, moss, growing on this one. I didn't notice that before. Well, this one is dirty, as usual. This is an unusual quirk on this one. So on this side, the boiler casting has a cutout for the motor. And on this side, it has a similar cutout, but it's been filed down quite a bit to make a little bit extra space for, I'm not quite sure what. That is a mystery. This is kind of different. The motor armature here has what appears to be some kind of retainer on it, or this part is actually wider, and I can't get it to slide past the brush mounts. Well, that was a hassle, but I'm not going to have to remove any of the original wiring from this, which is nice. So another reason I believe this model was factory built instead of kit built is because the headlight was actually crimped in place. This is a cast lead weight, and it appears that it was hot melted with some kind of hot pliers, and it crimped the headlight holder in place. Well, I was able to use my heat gun and set on high and softened up the metal just a little bit so that I could spread the lead apart using these large pliers so I don't burn my hand. And it loosened up just enough, the headlight holder popped right out. Well, I tend to do things off camera and then explain how that worked afterwards, and this is one of those situations. So this is the pilot from this third Gilbert Hudson, and this soft Zamac metal, or I think it's Zamac, was starting to warp, as happens with zinc metals of this age, and starting to crack. I'll show you here with a pointer, right along here, and it actually warped, and the pilot was curled underneath itself. But I had a crazy idea. I thought I would take my heat gun and heat this up very hot. Well, it turned out that whether the heat was necessary or not, I was able to gently pry this back into shape because this piece is actually very soft. And so, if anything, now it's curled up a little too high, but I'd rather have it too high than bent underneath and it'll hook the ties on the track otherwise. So this is interesting. This design resembles one of this solder lug. Here's a bin of solder lugs that I have, and I just thought of this. It occurred to me that they made this part out of a solder lug they just bent a little shape into. A very interesting and ingenious design, if I do say so. And so I will solder this back on, and before I do that, I'll show you one other thing that I had to repair here in the tender. So we're looking at this upside down, but I took apart and cleaned the drum on this. This design is a little different. Again, why I think this might have been done in a factory is because instead of using a sheathed wire, they just took a piece of bare wire and soldered this contact directly to the frame over here with this perfectly round ball of solder. Same on the underside here. So I was not able to remove this set of fingers to clean them, but I was able to remove the other one, and I was able to get the drum cleaned, and it works correctly. But there was a problem with this where the solenoid and the drum lever would chatter. This top plate of this other relay solenoid here was not tensioned properly, and I noticed that this spring here had actually fallen off, and also that this bottom piece that holds the spring in place was bent up quite a bit, almost to a 45-degree angle, and then reshaped this with the pliers and straightened it out. And now the reverse unit is clean, surfaced, and operating properly. Alright, not sure how well you'll be able to see this, but I have removed the drive rod linkage, and I have repaired the pin that holds this piece together. It's just a teeny tiny little brass nail, and just like I did on the first one, I just put a blob of solder on the end of the pin, and so far that seems to be holding it in place. It's a little stiff. We'll see how this holds up. Otherwise I will have to redo that one more time. Or I will replace it with the slightly larger pin that I used last time. So one thing that I noticed about how the original connector piece was soldered on is that it's actually soldered at a slight angle, which allows this outside rod to be at a more straight angle, whereas the one that I soldered in place I soldered it on a little bit more flat. So I might actually undo that solder work just a little bit and loosen it so that it sits at that angle that it was at. We'll see how that goes. The gears are lubricated, the side rod mechanisms are reinstalled, and the reverse mechanism in the tender is working correctly. Let's test this thing out. Let's give it a little voltage. Wow, this thing runs great. Stop, change direction. What did I say about running great? Yeah, well, okay. It probably needs a little work. I think this piece fell off because it reverse threaded out of the bakelite, and the bakelite is very soft, so if the threads are screwed in and out too much, it might have just stripped the threads out and it might have just fallen off. And I'll have to be very careful with these. Again, these are super old, so Well, that concludes this third and final video of the pre-war Gilbert Hudson restoration series. I still have one more Hudson to do a video on, hopefully next week, and that will be my post-war Gilbert Hudson. But this is the last of these pre-war locomotives that I am working on, and this one is by far my favorite. The paint on this is just about perfect. I actually went through it, the shell, and touched up all of the little nicks and scratches with some matching flat black oil paint, and the pilot has been straightened out so it runs. The motor sounds amazing. I love how this thing winds up when you open the throttle wide open. So this locomotive is ready to go back into service on my layout. And if you like this video, why don't you help out my channel by subscribing if you haven't already, and give it a like. And why not also check out some of my older videos. I have over 115 videos on my channel right now. All right, until next time, thanks for watching.